Hello everyone, welcome back to Real Life. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today we're going back 34 years ago to the spring of 1990 in the inner city neighborhood of Beltline in Calgary. First, a brief look in the 4th Street Sony Store. The Sony Store was originally a Safeway grocery store constructed around 1963 or 64, and it served the neighborhood until the early 1970s when it was converted into a Miller's electronics store. Miller's was bought out by Sony in the late 1970s. No HD flat screens, but plenty of Trinitron TVs, and for the camera geeks, a rare Sony EDC 55 Betamax high-end consumer camera. At $10,000, it was a pricey camera in 1990, and only a handful were sold in the country. In the days before streaming audio, you could buy a stereo system with turntable, cassette player, big speakers, maybe even an equalizer, complete with a matching stereo cabinet. Of course, there was affordable Video 8 and Hi-8 handycams, now replaced by smartphones. Recording medium, also known as cassette tapes and videotapes. Everyone needed them. How many do we still have? Yours truly worked here in the mid-1980s. It was an exciting time when CD players and Hi-8 cameras were brand new and the VHS Betamax competition was at its highest. All those formats are long gone. A couple of blocks north, Central Memorial Park, created in 1889, is a park located in central Calgary's Beltline district. The Memorial Park Library and the surrounding park were named a National Historic Site in 2018. The former Colonel Belcher Hospital stands behind the trees at the west end of the park and was replaced in 2003 by the Sheldon Schumer Health Center. The 4-story 1943 hospital was designed in an H-form with 2 4-story wings connected by a central building. It was built on the site of the mansion and property formerly owned by Senator Patrick Burns. The hospital ultimately had nearly 500 beds and served convalescing soldiers after the war. For some veterans, this would be their permanent home. This view of the statue commemorating the Boer War, looking northeast of the Calgary Tower, is no longer. The 34-story Park Point condo tower, built in 2018, lies directly in its path. The statue, unveiled in 1914, was sculpted by Louis Philippe Bert, who also sculpted the Indian family grouping in front of the legislature in Quebec City. Memorial Park Library. This was Calgary's first public library and was opened on January 2, 1912, under the leadership of Chief Librarian Alexander Calhoun, a classic scholar from Ontario. The library was built thanks in part to the generosity of Scottish-American industrialist and philanthropist Andrew Carnegie. The 4th Street corridor has been an important feeder route for over a century, with traffic to and from the south feeding Elbow Drive and McLeod Trail. You can just make out the Eaton sign in the distance, the unique plus 15, plus 30, plus 45 complex over 4th Street, and the new Eaton Centre is nearing completion. The wire-hung traffic lights, notorious for swinging wildly in windstorms, were all replaced more than 2 decades ago by rigid standards. Looking the other direction, this view south along 4th Street towards the Sony Store is currently undergoing a major change, with the addition of a condo tower under construction occupying the site of the former, quaint 1940s brick-built 3-floor Winston Manor apartments next to Red's Diner on 4th Street, adjacent to the former Sony Store. The 4th Street Lofts will be a 377-foot-tall, 29-floor residential tower when completed. It's likely only a matter of time before the Sony Store Safeway site is also replaced by a condo of some sort. Progress is inevitable in the inner city. From here we can also see the distant and quite busy 17th Avenue intersection. Much has changed around this important intersection over the years. The open-air concrete overpass was removed a few years back, as has the 10-story 1520 4th Street building occupying the northeast corner. The First Baptist Church on the corner of 13th Avenue and 4th Street, one of Calgary's earliest religious congregations, has been valued as an important institution for the city's Baptist community since 1888. Designed by D.S. McElroy, it's a finely crafted and richly decorated expression of the Gothic Revival style. The highly intact church is among the best examples of the style in the city. As a bonus, here's some footage I captured later in the day of 146th Avenue, now Fish Creek Boulevard. If it looks unfamiliar, that's to be expected. This was farmland and acreages a third of a century ago. Today, the neighborhoods of Evergreen and Millrise house thousands of families. The large brown building off in the distance is the Southgate Alliance Church. The red and white stacks and industrial site is a former 1964 built fertilizer plant off of Barlow Trail and Shepherd Road, which went by numerous names during its existence. It's now largely dismantled and abandoned. We're now looking west along 146th Avenue to the 37th Street T-intersection, which will lead you down to the single-lane wooden deck bridge over Fish Creek with alternating traffic flows. I hope you've enjoyed this look back 34 years ago to a city that has more than doubled in size since then. Thank you to my subscribers and members. Your support helps me create these little historical gems. There's many more to come. Have a great day.